Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. Today is 7th of August. Now it's 11 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news for a news segment on some major developments that Russian media and public is paying attention to, and I hope you will find news segment informative and useful. And if so, dear friends, please, if you can, click that like button and leave some commentary. It might help to deal with the extremely aggressive algorithm, especially on YouTube, and maybe we will reach a wider audience. And after the news segment, dear friends, and as always, I will be engaged there in a community chat. If you have any question or you want a certain comment to be highlighted, please use capital letters. That will make it easier to spot your question or the commenter. And dear friends, before I start the stream itself, let me address one, I think, important topic, which is that whenever I'm expressing some critical view on certain decisions or the statements of either a Russian president or any other high-ranking official, usually at least one or several members of our community, usually new ones, new members of community, are sending me messages to be a bit cautious and not to risk. And you know what, I appreciate their attention, obviously, but for new members that most likely are new, not just for our community, but for in alternative media in general, for the new members, I will say that probably they are still experiencing some influence of the Western propaganda, based on which fake, obviously, Western propaganda, based on which nobody here in Russia can express opinion freely. No one can criticize anybody, especially government, Putin, or anyone else, which is fake, by the way, fake information, which is nonsense, total nonsense, right? As long as you are a good citizen, free of foreign influence, and your criticism is coming from a good place, I mean, you are good to go. You can criticize anybody you want all day long, and it's fine. I mean, it's nothing special about it, right? But I can understand that people that are new to alternative media still are under this impression that Western propagandists are trying to create, that in Russia you cannot express opinion freely, by the way, otherwise you're going to get jailed or killed or something like that, which is total nonsense, by the way. I can criticize anybody I want all along, and what? I mean, nothing, right? If as long as I said, man, as long as your criticism is coming from a good place, you are free from any foreign influence, you are a good citizen, you're good to go, man. Express your opinion freely, man. It's that's why I said quite a number of times that I think, and I only have to think, by the way, that people here in Russia are much more free than people in the Western countries. And there, I can elaborate on that if if there will be question on this matter. Anyways, dear friends, I wanted to address this issue, by the way, because every time I express some criticism of any decision of the government, I do receive such warnings from members of our community that just be careful, don't risk it. I mean, I'm not risking nothing, for God's sake, right? Anyways, dear friends, let's start a new segment now. And I'm going to start information with this report from a few hours ago that based on information from monitoring services, Kiev regime, Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, with assistance, obviously, of NATO, US, and UK, to be more precise, allegedly launched 12, approximately 12 missiles, Storm Shadow cruise missiles, in direction of Crimea. There was an air raid alert all over the Crimean Peninsula. About an hour ago, maybe a little less, I spotted on one of their Telegram channels, big Telegram channels, a report that air raid alert was cancelled in Sevastopol, but no additional information at this point about what had happened with with these missiles. Were all of them intercepted, or did they reach a target. There is no information on that. Only a report that I see on one of the big channels. It was a Soloviev Live on the Telegram, I believe, that 11 trains from Crimea and towards Crimea are their schedule is delayed, and that's it. Reasons are not yet that clear, right? So we should keep this information in mind while I will go through other news, because I wouldn't be surprised at all if we will find out during the day that this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, with the assistance of NATO, did try to strike a Crimean bridge. Although for this moment, let me be precise on that, for this moment, there is not a single report about what had happened with these missiles, and was all of them intercepted, or they did hit their target whenever they was directed, right? So during the day, obviously, if any update, I will share additional information on that. And I think this information is important because this is happening on a backdrop of yesterday's talks between special envoy of US, Steve Witkoff, with the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, after which, by the way, during the day, quite a number of statements were made about this meeting, not just here in Russia, but in United States also. And these statements were kind of optimistic, right? But nevertheless, let's go topic by topic now. So TASS News Agency is reporting that that Trump was asked, by the way, US President Trump was asked about his ultimatum, and when he went to elaborate that time for a Ukraine deal is expiring. He also went to say that US President Donald Trump confirmed that the deadline he had said earlier for reaching agreement on Ukraine is approaching its end, but pointed to their very serious negotiations, as he was meaning talks between Witkoff and Putin. He made this statement on Wednesday, yesterday, while speaking to journalists at the White House. So this deadline of Trump, or ultimatum, that is expiring on 8th of August, is still in force. And well, we should keep that in mind, as I said, because you know my take, dear friends, on all this situation. I shared my opinion many times that I think all these talks about Trump sanctioning Russia and sanctioning Russian allies or the trade partners are deception operation on part of White House, and I'm quite sure in reality US, UK, and France, Germany, and others from NATO are planning unprecedented scale of escalation against Russia. And this information that I mentioned in the beginning, that based according to monitoring services, allegedly 12 Storm Shadow missiles were launched this morning towards Crimean Peninsula, is only confirming my concern, right? That's how I see it. Anyways, so therefore, 1 day is left, by the way, before this ultimatum is going to expire, and well, we should expect unprecedented scale of escalation either during the day today, maybe nighttime, and definitely tomorrow and afterwards. But to continue, Glad newspaper is reporting that Trump threatened basically again to impose more sanctions on Russia's trade partners. United States will impose more secondary sanctions against Russia's trade partner. US President told the journalists yesterday, you will see much more. You will see a lot of secondary sanctions. TASS is quoting Trump as saying, and let me give you shorter video, dear friends, when Trump was talking about it, even sanctioning China potentially. So that's the short.
Potential secondary Yeah.
Russian oil. Them having that tariff or sanction rather, or not, hinges on what going forward?
It may happen. I mean, I don't know. I can't tell you yet, but we did it with India. We're doing it probably with a couple of others. One of them could be China. Yes.
Yes, so he did not forget to mention India. I don't know why he's this hostile towards India, that supposed to be treated by the West as a partner, right? But nevertheless, he himself is saying in that video that more countries will be sanctioned for cooperating with Russia, including or potentially China too. And but nevertheless, my take is that all these talks about sanctions and tariffs and so on is an attempt of Washington to divert public's attention, and especially to divert attention of the Moscow, right? And visit of Witkoff, in my personal opinion, that happened yesterday was exactly the part of this deception operation that Trump and Witkoff are personally engaged in, and not the first time, dear friends. I remind you that it was a very same Trump and very same Witkoff that were engaged in a deception operation against Iran, right? While they were engaged in talks with Iranian representatives about nuclear program just about months ago, little more now. Very same time, they were orchestrating together with Israel military attacks on Iran, right? And I hope Russian leadership is keeping in mind that these two personalities, Trump and Witkoff, were engaged in a deception personally, and they cannot be trusted, period, right? Nevertheless, let's continue with some more news. And as I already mentioned, yesterday, Russian president personally greeted her special envoy of U.S. President Steve Witkoff. I can show you short clip of their meeting. So as you can see, Russian president greeted Witkoff with a warm welcome, isn't it? With a warm welcome. My opinion is that he should not waste time talking to Witkoff. This is a mistake, I believe. But nevertheless, Ushakov made a statement right now. Okay, by the way, we have breaking news right now. I'm going to share with you that breaking news, but let me finish on this matter. I think this was a big mistake on part of Russian side to waste president's time while meeting, with Witkoff, because I'm 100% convinced Witkoff and Trump are engaged in a deception operation. They want to cut Russia off guard from whatever provocations they are planning, and they are planning provocations, by the way. 100%, I have no doubts about it, right? But nevertheless, Russian president greeted Witkoff with a warm welcome. They had a 3-hour conversation, by the way, 3-hour conversation, after which aide of Russian president Yuri Ushakov spoke with the media, and I can give you his statements. I spoke about it in yesterday's second live stream, but not that many members of our community see that video. So therefore, I think it's worth to repeat this news that, President Vladimir Putin and the U.S. leader, Special Envoy Steven Witkoff, discussed the Ukrainian crisis. At the meeting, presidential aide Yuri Ushakov reported, if we name the topics, then first of all, of course, it is a Ukrainian crisis. And the second topic is the prospects of the potential or possible developments of strategic cooperation between the US and Russia. I mean, this is about strategic cooperation between US and Russia. US is directly engaged in the killing of the Russian citizens. And for 3+ years at this point, US is directly engaged in the killing of thousands of Russian citizens. And Ushakov is talking about some prospects of strategic cooperation between US and Russia. I mean, maybe you understand, dear friends, what the hell is going on here, but I clearly don't. This is not the way Russia should treat US, by the way, US leadership. Exactly because thousands of Russian citizens have been killed due to US involvement in this proxy war against Russia. My personal take on the matter. But let's continue this report from RIA Novosti. So in particular, President Putin conveyed some signals to the United States on the Ukrainian issue and received similar ones from Donald Trump through Witkoff. Ushakov said, and we have some additional quote here. The situation now is that our president has a full information that is our signals from the President Trump, and Trump has not yet been informed of the results of this meeting. Therefore, I would refrain for more detailed comments. Let's see when Witkoff can report on the conversation that took place today to Trump. After that, obviously, we will be able to supplement my comments now with something more substantial, said Ushakov yesterday, right after Putin-Witkoff meeting to journalists. And dear friends, as I said, we have a breaking news right now that is coming also from Ushakov, I believe, that is, which is that Russia and the US have agreed on a meeting between Putin and Trump. This is definitely breaking news at this point. So Russia and the United States have agreed on a meeting between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump in the coming days. Presidential aide Yuri Ushakov stated just now, by the way, literally minutes ago, at the suggestion of the American side, an agreement was agreed in principle to hold a bilateral meeting at the highest level in the coming days. That is a meeting between President Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. He said, according to Ushakov, their parties have started working on their summit. The next week is designated as a benchmark, but it is difficult to say how many days their preparation will take. The venue for the meeting has been agreed upon. It will be announced later. So, well, breaking news, by the way. My first reaction is that this is also a deception operation on part of Trump. I think there's going to be no meeting between Trump and Putin, by the way, despite the statement from Ushakov that there was some agreement in place. There's going to be no such a meeting, by the way, I think, because I have no trust in U.S. leadership. I have no trust in the leadership of Western states. They are lying constantly. And I think Russian side should be extremely, extremely careful and focused on potential threats that U.S., UK, France, Germany are preparing and will generate in upcoming days, and also obviously their proxy terrorist regime of Zelensky. I think in nearest hours, by the way, in next few days, something is going to happen on such a scale that no one would even remember about this preliminary agreement to organize a meeting between Trump and Putin, because that topic will be out of conversation. Maybe I'm too skeptical, by the way. Maybe I'm too skeptical, but yet again, I have no trust to anybody that represents collective West at this point, because I have no reason to trust them, right? And I don't think any of you have a reason to have a different attitude towards the Western so-called elites, right? But nevertheless, let's continue with more news. So Trump held a conversation with Zelensky yesterday, after or simultaneously with meeting between Putin and Witkoff. Details of a conversation between Trump and Zelensky are not really known, just the information that they had a phone conversation. My guess is that probably Trump and Zelensky during their conversation finalized their provocations that Zelensky will sign up for in upcoming days. Provocations that US, UK, France, Germany, and other NATO member states have prepared against Russia. And obviously, to maintain plausible deniability, all hostile actions of the NATO will be claimed by Zelensky's regime. And probably that was the main topic of discussion between Trump and Zelensky, and maybe Trump yet again demanded from Zelensky, Moscow and St. Petersburg to be targeted, as he did it during their previous conversation on 4th of July. And Zelensky himself, by the way, yesterday went to state that he rejects any limited ceasefire with Russia. So Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky has rejected any limited ceasefire with Russia, insisting that Kyiv will only agree to a complete halt of hostilities. His statement came in the wake of report from the Bloomberg that Moscow planned to propose a pause in air operations. And dear friends, this report that Moscow proposes or plans to propose or agrees on a partial ceasefire is coming from a Bloomberg, Western propaganda outlet. None of the Russian media outlets, by the way, that I'm monitoring says a single word about a partial ceasefire. Literally none of them. I did not see any reports on that whatsoever. I don't know. Maybe behind the closed doors, Moscow actually proposed a partial ceasefire. Maybe Moscow proposed that there will be no airstrikes on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kyiv regime with the missiles or Air Force. I don't know. Maybe behind the closed doors there was such agreement, and the Western so-called partners of Russian leaders, leak the information to Bloomberg. Maybe, right? But yet again, let's keep in mind that none of the Russian media outlets that I'm monitoring reported about Moscow's intention to impose a partial ceasefire on the line of contact, as basically it was demanded by Washington, right? Although there is a bit difference, Washington is demanding complete ceasefire, right? And Zelensky, who is basically emboldened big time by active support of globalists and globalist-controlled regimes all over the Western world, is making these bold statements that, well, he don't cares about partial ceasefire. He demands complete ceasefire. I don't know what is going to happen. Let's see, by the way, maybe during the day we will learn some more on the matter, and of course I will share additional information if available on my Telegram and Twitter X page or the next in the next updates. And dear friends, before I continue with the next additional news, and there is quite a lot really left to unpack. Let me just highlight once again that this project, this independent media project from Russia, is completely subscriber funded. That is fully independent and exists only as long as I have your support or community support. And if you like my work, if you want to support, you can do it through several means. You can donate to this project with the PayPal platform or Boosty platform. You can subscribe to my Patreon page or the Boosty page, where I have quite a lot of extra content on a regular basis. You can use crypto for support, and during the live streams, dear friends, you can use super chat feature on Rumble, on my Rumble page. I'm streaming simultaneously on YouTube and Rumble, so during the streams you can use super chat feature on Rumble and donate that way, or become a premium subscriber on Rumble. All the links, all their addresses are on this video in the description box, and will be in a pinned comment after this stream ends. Okay, that's been said, dear friends. Of course, many thanks to everybody who already helped and continues to support to maintain this project alive. Truly grateful. Thank you. Let's continue, dear friends, with some more news now. And next is this report from Trump that, well, he imposed additional 25% tariffs on India, as he himself stated in a short video that I showed you earlier. So it's 50% tariffs now on Indian goods, not all Indian goods, but on majority Indian goods. And I remind you, dear friends, that for India, US is a main trade partner when it comes to Indian exports, right? So this is a big deal, and obviously New Delhi is upset due to this tremendous hostility from White House, from Trump himself. And we have a statement from India's foreign ministry Let me give you some details on that. So the United States has in recent days targeted India's oil imports from Russia. We have already made clear our position on this issue, including the fact that our imports are based on market factors and done with the overall objective of ensuring the energy security of 1.4 billion people of India. It is therefore extremely unfortunate that US should choose to impose additional tariffs on India for actions that several other countries are also taking in their own national interests. We reiterate that these actions are unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable. India will take all actions necessary to protect its national interests. This is a statement, official statement of Ministry of External Affairs or the Foreign Ministry of India, and still, by the way, very diplomatic, very calm, I will say, and very diplomatic statement from Indian Foreign Ministry. One would expect more tougher words to be chosen for this statement, but no, Indian Foreign Ministry usually is extremely diplomatic, as one would expect, by the way. After all, India diplomacy is led by legendary Foreign Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar. So it is quite understandable, but nevertheless, that it is a diplomatic statement, but nevertheless quite precise, right, and strong. Also, dear friends, on the topic of India, I have this report that India and Russia have signed the protocol on deepening industrial and technological cooperation, which means that Russia and India will further deepen their ties in economical, political, military, and every possible sphere, by the way, including energy sectors. And I mentioned yesterday during the second updates that there are some speculations on the internet that India might ask Russian side for some discount, for some significant discount, even when it comes to oil sales. And if we keep in mind that relationships between Russia and India are extremely important, this high-level relationships for both countries. So we see India as a strategical partner. India sees Russia as a strategical partner. So therefore, I would not be surprised at all if Moscow will see this potential demand from Indian side. Yet again, this is alleged reports, by the way, about this claim. Not alleged reports, but this is speculations about alleged demand from India. Russian side may actually take this demand with understanding, and India might actually receive some very sufficient discount when it comes to oil trade. That will compensate at least partially losses for India due to US tariffs. So it will make sense for sure. That's how strategical partners should treat each other, right? And on top of the topic of cooperation between Russia and India, let me give you this report that Russian President Vladimir Putin met India's national security advisor after Trump threatened New Delhi with their choking 50% tariffs for buying Russian oil. And so, by the way, relationships between Moscow and New Delhi are further on their trajectory of further deepening. Russian president plans to visit India in shorter time. And also, one should keep in mind that India's foreign minister, Jaishankar, will visit Moscow in upcoming days. So some very significant developments are taking place in relationships between Russia and India towards the positive side, I will say, right? And well, let's see how will situation develop in this regards. But what is most important, by the way, India is not bowing down to nobody, right? To nobody. India is a major superpower in this world, and US will learn it now hard way. US leadership should know it and should treat India as such, as a major superpower in this world, by the way. But unfortunately, Trump decided to treat India as if this country is some banana republic, and he will regret that shortly. I'm quite sure about it. And also, by the way, on the topic of improved relationships between or further deepening of the ties between India and BRICS member states, not just Russia, but other BRICS member states, I have this report for you that Well, Rapprochement, by the way, is gaining momentum between India and China on the backdrop of this tremendous hostility that India is experiencing from the collective West, first of all from the US. So reports are that Indian Prime Minister is visiting China for the first time in 7 years on August 31st for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. Moreover, all this is happening against the backdrop, as already said, of this tremendous pressure from the West, and also on the backdrop of some border tensions that was happening and still continues to exist between China and India, right? But nevertheless, Beijing and New Delhi are overcoming whatever differences they have in regard to some difficult topics, and are tightening their relationships, right? Improving their relationships, and this is a big deal, by the way. This is a big deal. I said many times before that both countries, India and China, are strategical partners of the Russian Federation, key members of the BRICS and the emerging multipolar world, and they have to just, for sake of humanity, they have to overcome whatever differences they have, right? And seems like situation is moving exactly in that trajectory, right? Which is great information, by the way. So let's continue with some more news now. And well, I'm gonna give you a short video of Marco Rubio, by the way, head of U.S. State Department. And I think you will find his statements somewhat funny and at the same time frustrating, because it seems like only now, U.S. leadership did understood what was the Russian demands when it comes to achieving de-escalation in terms of Ukrainian crisis. Russian leadership was very clear for so many years, by the way, right? What Russian demands are. Russian president was very clear on the matter, isn't it? After all, on 14th of June 2024, when he had a meeting with the leadership of foreign ministry, he went to detailed basically roadmap that Russia sees as realistic to achieve a sustainable peace, right? But nevertheless, only now, for whatever reasons, Rubio is saying that, well, now they understand a little better or know better. I mean, these people are incompetent, by the way. I mean, these people are incompetent on a whole new level, right? How you can say this, man? Have some self-respect, for God's sake. How you can publicly say that you only now understood stuff that Russian leadership was saying for the last 3 freaking years, man? Are you idiot? That's what you're saying, right? That you are so unhinged and so intellectually poorly prepared that it took you 3 freaking years plus to understand some quite simple stuff, right? Just to read it, for God's sake, on a paper and understand it. Anyways, dear friends, let me give you a video, and you tell me what you will make of this statement of Rubio.
Understanding of the conditions under which Russia would be prepared to end the war. We now have to compare that to what the Ukrainians and our European allies, but the Ukrainians primarily, of course, are willing to accept. And what you try to see is how far can you get these two positions closer? How can you get these two positions closer to each other? If we can get what the Ukrainians will accept and what the Russians will accept close enough, then I think there's the opportunity for the president to have a meeting that includes both Putin and Zelensky to try to close this thing out. So we got to get closer in that regard. But I think for the first time, perhaps since this administration began, we have some concrete examples of the kinds of things that Russia would ask for in order to end the war. We haven't had much of that to this point. Obviously, the Ukrainians have a say in this. We got to bring the two sides and the two positions close enough so that, you know, the ultimate closer, President Trump, can get involved and make it happen.
I mean, I don't know what is wrong with this these people, by the way, that are in charge of U.S. And how this is even possible that they are saying that only now they understand what Russia's conditions are, when Russian position is very clear for so many time, since the beginning of special military operation, basically. And after all, Russian president himself, by the way, on several occasions, including in July last year, during his meeting with the foreign ministry, went to describe details even of the roadmap that Russia sees as a feasible and realistic to reach concrete de-escalation. Not just a ceasefire, not just temporary ceasefire, but complete resolution of the conflict, right? And I remind you, by the way, what these requests from Russian side are. Acknowledgement of Russian jurisdiction over the new regions from Crimea to DPR and LPR, withdrawal of Kiev regime's forces from areas of these new regions that they have their presence, and after that, Russian side was very much open to begin meaningful talks with the Kiev regime, right? Obviously, terms are neutrality. This demand has not gone away, and of course, Russian speakers on Kiev-controlled territory have to be protected, their rights, and rights of ethnic and religious minorities in general, right? That was basic demands, basically, from Russian side. And somehow Marco Rubio is saying that they only now understand what Russia wants. I mean, how, for God's sake? Are you freaking idiots or what? What is wrong with you? Russian position has not changed, by the way, right? Anyways, dear friends, I would love to be optimistic, by the way. I would love to believe that, well, these relatively optimistic statements from US that we see today in regards to Ukrainian crisis, in regards to this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, will resolve into true de-escalation. But unfortunately, I am skeptical of that. I have no trust in anybody that represents leadership of collective Western countries, and I don't think you do. You know, they just simply didn't deserve either respect or the trust. It is what it is, right? And unfortunately, I'm expecting not de-escalation now, but I'm expecting unprecedented scale of escalation that West gonna start in next several hours, several days, after which Moscow will have no option to retaliate and retaliate harder, not just on their military and logistical infrastructure or the military assets of the Kiev regime, but also on the military assets of their NATO countries that will be engaged directly in this next phase of escalation with Russia. And only after that, when globalists, when Western ruling class, call them globalists, neocons, or whatever, only after that, Western ruling class will realize, I think, that they actually have lost this proxy war against Russia, and they can no longer continue escalation. Otherwise, they will provoke full-scale nuclear exchange. Once they will come to that realization, they will begin de-escalating, I guess. But right now, they are not in that place yet, right? And because they have no reverse gear, they will continue to escalate. And therefore, I'm 100% convinced, by the way, that all these talks from the West is just a deception, part of deception operation. I would love to be wrong, by the way, on that. I love to see through the escalation. I want to see end of this conflict. But we have to be realistic, right? We have to be realistic. Our hopes are good, but we cannot rely on our hopes solely, right? We have to be realistic. Let's continue with some more news, dear friends. And well, next report that I want to share with you is that Trump actually urged to schedule a meeting with Putin and Zelensky faster, according to Western media, CNN to be more precise. And well, seems like administration of U.S. president contacted the administration of the Russian president, and as an aide of Russian President Ushakov stated, their sides already are working to organize meeting between Putin and Trump in upcoming days. But yet again, rapid developments on one side, but on the other hand, I think this is all part of deception. And there will be no meeting between Trump and Putin. I expect that something will happen in upcoming hours and days that will remove this topic of meeting between Trump and Putin from the conversation, potentially forever. And dear friends, to give you sort of understanding how Russian society, at least partially, is reacting on latest developments, Witkoff's visit, fact that Russian president personally greeted him and wasted 3 hours talking to this individual, and the rest, by the way, and statements of Trump. Let me give you these screenshots, by the way, from one of the biggest biggest Telegram channel on Russian segment of internet. This is a Solovyov Live, by the way. One might argue that this project, Solovyov Live, is a Kremlin-linked project, so it's a absolutely pro-Russian, patriotic project. We should assume, right? At least the people that are subscribed to it should be on that stance, right? Extremely pro-Russian, patriotic, and take a look at the reactions, by the way, of people on this particular news, for example, that Trump tells European leaders that he intends to meet with Putin and Zelensky. And this was reported by New York Times. And just look at their smiles here. Almost 3,000 people shared this smile of a kind of frustration. What the hell, right? More than 1,600 people disliked the information, right? It's quite telling, isn't it? We cannot assume that this is exactly how overall Russian public did reacted on these reports because we don't have a study on that. But this is one of the biggest channels on Telegram, over 1 million subscribers, by the way, way above 1 million subscribers. And that's the reaction, right? And let me give you another one. For example, when Trump went to say that, let me give you a quote of his statement. My special envoy, Steve Witkoff, just had a highly productive meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. Great progress was made. Afterwards, I updated some of our European allies. Everyone agrees that this war must come to a close, and we will work towards that in the days and the weeks to come. That's what Trump says, right? And and he highlighted that this was a sort of a highly productive meeting, right? Take a look at the reactions of their subscribers in Solovyov. More than 3,000 people just are laughing because, and these smiles demonstrate, again, frustration and disbelief, right? People just simply don't believe what Trump is saying. And another 1,000 smiles with the frustration and more than 400 dislikes. So yet again, this is not necessarily how Russian public feels about these developments, because we have no study on that yet. But, I'm sharing these screenshots just to have a more or less good understanding how at least part of society here in Russia is reacting on these developments. There is a high level of skepticism and frustration. Let's continue. A high level of skepticism when it comes to collective West, by the way, when it comes to leadership of the collective West countries, including US. Because, people struggle to trust anything that comes out from the Western leadership nowadays, right? And I think this is true, not just in case of Russia or Russian society, but in case of all the societies worldwide, in any country, right? Even in Western countries, probably, society is mainly skeptical of statements of their leadership because people that are actually paying attention to real news, real developments, those people wouldn't be able to trust anything that comes out of their political leadership, I think. Anyways, dear friends, let's continue with some more news. And let me give you this report from RIA Novosti, which is based on latest update of Russian Defense Ministry, that overnight, Russian air defense systems on duty intercepted 84 drones that was launched by Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky to strike deep into Russian territory, obviously with the assistance of NATO. I can give you more specifics on that. 31 drones were intercepted over the Azov Sea, 11 drones over the Crimea, 10 in the Rostov region. So focus again on southern Russia, by the way. 9 drones in Krasnodar Krai, also southern Russia. 8 drones over the Black Sea, obviously southern Russia. 7 in the Volgograd region, southern Russia. 4 in Belgorod, 1 each in Kursk and the Oryol regions. A relatively large-scale attempt of Kyiv regime and NATO to strike deep into Russian territory. But unfortunately, I think these numbers of launches of drones and missiles gonna increase tremendously in upcoming days, I'm afraid. And yet again, I hope I am wrong being skeptic, by the way. I really hope I'm wronger being this skeptic. Hopefully we will actually see true de-escalation, right? And end of this bloody war that West is waging against Russia, sacrificing whole of Ukraine, this former Soviet Republic. But I don't really have enough indicators to be more optimistic. I want to be more optimistic, but I just cannot, man. I have no reasons for that at this point. Few more news, dear friends, sir. Few more news, sir, and I will get engaged there with the chat, with the community. So Russian armed forces, according to number of sources, dear friends, Russian armed forces established control over their Leontovichi settlement in southern western flank of Pokrovsk city. This is Pokrovsk, by the way. This relatively larger settlement town, and this is the area which was completely liberated by Russian forces. According to number of reports, Russian Defense Ministry did not yet for this moment officially confirm this report, but probably we will receive confirmation either during the day or tomorrow. Also, reports are that Russian armed forces further improved their positions in Sobolevka area on a Kupiansk direction. And just take a look at the map, dear friends. This area now, where you see these icons of movement of the Russian troops, is under full Russian control. And this larger settlement is Kupiansk itself. So Russian troops encircling Kupiansk from the northern-western side, by the way, right? And I guess as progress of the Russian armed forces continues in this area, it is highly likely that this is exactly the direction how Kupiansk gonna end up being either completely encircled or in operational encirclement. I guess at this point, Kyiv regime's garrison in Kupiansk have only 1 or 2 supply and support lines left that they can use, and I think not for longer. So some very significant developments to be expected in Kupiansk direction in upcoming days and weeks. Also, dear friends, let me give you this terrific news, by the way, which is that Kyiv regime is refusing to receive, by the way, 1,000 of its POWs. Can you imagine that? Russia is ready to release 1,000 POWs as a part of Istanbul agreements to conduct exchange of POWs, and Kyiv regime is refusing to take back these POWs, man. What the hell is happening there? So Kyiv refused to accept 1,000 captured soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine as a part of exchanges with Russia, which made the second stage of the exchange difficult, and the third has not yet begun. This was written on his Telegram channel by Vladimir Medinsky, an aide to Russian president and head of the Russian negotiation team with Ukraine. He was leading Russian team in Istanbul, by the way. We all know that. And so I don't know what even to make of this news, dear friends. Maybe Kyiv regime don't want this military personnel because potentially, I cannot be sure, but maybe this military personnel, as a result of their injuries that was treated by Russian doctors, Russian medics, maybe they're not going to be able to be forcefully mobilized, right? Maybe Kyiv regime wouldn't be able to mobilize these 1,000 people to send them on the battlefield again, right? Due to their injuries or the physical conditions, let's say this way. And maybe that is the reason why Kyiv regime is refusing to take them back. Otherwise, I cannot even come up with any explanation on this of this news. What's going on here? Only logical explanation is that Kyiv regime wants Russia to release POWs that Kyiv regime can again forcefully mobilize and send to tranches. Maybe that's what is happening. And according to some reports, by the way, Kyiv regime is especially focused on the Nazi elements from Azov, from Kraken, from Aidar, and their other Nazi formations. Kyiv regime wants them to be released first, and the Russian side, more often than not, refuses to release those individuals. But nevertheless, I think news itself is definitely worth our attention. Also, the Zled newspaper is reporting that, well, I already reported that Trump threatened to impose additional sanctions on more countries due to their cooperation with Russia. And, well, Brazil, by the way, is not taking no nonsense, by the way, from US. Brazil's Lula president proposed BRICS leaders meeting to respond to Donald Trump. Good idea, by the way, for sure. Brazil will discuss a response to US President Donald Trump's tariffs with their other BRICS nations. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva told the Reuters in an interview published on Wednesday. Lula said he will reach out to other BRICS nations and discuss how to tackle the tariffs. In addition, he said he would reach out to his Chinese and Indian counterparts, Xi Jinping and Narendra Modi, followed by other leaders, Reuters reported. And this is, yet again, this is a good idea. That's how BRICS should react, by the way. This is a clearly assault on BRICS too, right? US is on offensive not just on India, US and the collective West in general, but they are an assault on BRICS. And the BRICS member states, if they are serious about multipolar world, definitely have to increase cooperation and definitely have to respond to these new threats generated by collective West, US in particular, together with combined efforts, right? None of the BRICS member states should face this assault from the West alone. We should stand together. That's where our strength is, right? And so, I completely support this idea of Lula da Silva, and hopefully we will see in upcoming days not just statement from the BRICS, but also actual increase in the cooperation, which is tremendously important for whole of humanity, I will argue, right? Because multipolar world is something that will benefit whole of humanity. It's going to be much more just, by the way, that than Western controlled world ever was, right? And Western domination is definitely never has to be allowed in this world. It's just too dangerous, too damaging for everybody. A few more news, dear friends. RT is reporting that EU nation shelves a purchase of US F-35 fighter jets. Well, Washington not gonna like this news. Neither US military industrial complex, Lockheed Martin to be more particular. I believe it's Lockheed Martin, isn't it, that produces F-35s. So Spain has shelved plans to buy US-made F-35 stealth fighter jets. Their move is tied to EU defense spending rules and the concerns over reliance on American weapons. El País has reported, citing government sources, preliminary talks had already begun over their fifth-generation fighters built by aerospace giant Lockheed Martin. Yes, it's Lockheed Martin. And Spain's 2023 defense budget earmarked over 6 billion euros or $7 billion to replace its aging Harrier F-18 jets. All through, Madrid has committed to raising military spending to 2% of GDP. A new 10.5 billion defense plan allocates 85% of funds to the EU industry. The condition effectively blocked a US deal, according to report on Wednesday. The move aligns with the EU's growing militarization push and aims to reduce reliance on foreign supplies. Okay, I mean, instead of F-35s, Spain might purchase, I don't know, what European companies are producing now, either French Rafale or Swedish Saab, Gripen or Eurofighter Typhoon. I mean, Typhoon is just too old at this point, but latest variations of Swedish Gripen is not bad plane at all, and French Rafale is also not a bad plane, even though U.S. media did try to bury French Rafale and discredit Dassault company that is producing those planes, right? Because of the competition. U.S. was trying to sell its F-35s to India, and that didn't work out well. Maybe that is one of the reasons why Trump is so upset with India. I don't know. But anyways, well, Spain will no longer buy F-35s. At least this is the reports for now. Also, dear friends, let me give you some information about China-Russia trade. Some interesting news that this trade did fail, by the way, for 8.1% to $125.8 billion from January to July time frame. Let me give you some details on that too. So trade volume between China and Russia declined by 8.1% year-on-year terms from January through July, amounting to $125.8 billion, according to General Administration of the Customs of China. According to published data, China's export over the 7-month period totaled $56.23 billion, marking an 8.5% decrease. Imports of Russian goods to China fell by 7.7% to $69.57 billion. Russia's trade surplus in January-July reached $13.34 billion, which is approximately the same as during the corresponding period of 2024. And well, this is quite interesting, by the way. Certain drop in trade, maybe because countries are decreasing reliance on supplies from each other. They are more focused on domestic production. That could be one of the reasons. Also, overall slowdown of world economy definitely will play a role in that. And whatever the case, it is good to know that Russia still has a surplus, by the way, in trade with China, which is a tremendously rare occasion. Almost no country in this world has a surplus, by the way, when it comes to trade with China. But Russia has that surplus, which is good, by the way, I will say. Okay, let's continue. And dear friends, some interesting news about NASA's ambitions to go back to Moon and then to visit Mars. Let me give you some statement that was made by NASA boss Sean Duffy. Some short video on that. Unfortunately, competition between the countries continues in space too, instead of cooperation. But it is what it is, man.
So we've sent one unmanned mission to the moon and back. The next one is going to go in the first part of next year, a manned mission out and around the moon. And then a year after that, we're going to land back on the moon. We'll stay for 6 days. Last time we only stayed for 3. And then from there, we want to start bringing assets to the moon for future astronauts. When they get there, they can start to deploy those assets, whether it's our bubble or our whatever we're going to use to house our astronauts, and then turn on our energy source. And again, this is so important. The moon is complicated, but even more complicated is Mars. And if we don't start this process, the Chinese aren't stopping, the Russians aren't stopping. We have to push forward. And what's great about Donald Trump is he doesn't live in a box. He doesn't have to play by any rules. He sees opportunity. He sees what America can do, and he goes for it. That's the kind of president he is. And so he's unleashed us to push this priority forward as opposed to out of the lab. Let's get into reality.
Okay. Some ambitious plans there on part of NASA. But yet again, what I will say is that it is unfortunate that countries in this world are unable to cooperate, at least in space explorations. That will make success more feasible, right? But it is what it is. Maybe sometime in the future, humanity will grow enough to actually learn how to cooperate. But it's not the case for now. I will just add, dear friends, that Russia and China actually are cooperating on the topic of explorations of the moon, for example. Also in the topic of potential explorations of Mars, testing their ground for, launches towards the red planet, right? And I believe there is a plans already in the place between Russian and Chinese aerospace industries to build their base on the moon, right? And Russia is working on a nuclear reactor, for example, for that base to power it once assembled on the moon, right? U.S. also has plans to build its own nuclear reactor for moon base. Let's see, by the way, let's see which side will succeed better. But yet again, I think for humanity it would be much better if U.S., China, and Russia and India, other European aerospace agencies would cooperate. We would have better chances for success in that case. But anyways, I wanted to share this information as for a change, by the way, because news about politics is just too stressful, right? Usually, something of somewhat positive. Although, by the way, to stay on the topic of space, I will end this new segment on this report that scientists warns of a most powerful magnetic storm in 2 months. So the most powerful magnetic storm in the last 2 months is expected on Earth on August 8th. Sergei Bogachev, head of the Solar Astronomy Laboratory at the Space Research Institute of the Russian Academy of Science, told RIA Novosti. And well, this means, dear friends, that yes, of course, this magnetic storm might influence some satellites on orbit potentially. Maybe there will be some issues with the communication, but I'm sharing this information for weather sensitive people. First of all, we all are grown-ups, right? And some of us might be weather sensitive, and if in that case, whenever there is a magnetic storm, me personally, and I think all other weather sensitive people are experiencing some issues with their blood pressure. So we should be ready, by the way. 8th of August is tomorrow, right? So if members of our community are experiencing some blood pressure issues time to time, I think that they should be extra careful while Earth will pass through this charged particles that was launched towards orbit of our planet by sun as a result of yet another coronal mass ejection or whatever, right? And yes, that's about it when it comes to news segment. Dear friends, let me once again highlight that aide of the Russian president Yuri Ushakov today made a statement that administration of the U.S. presidents and the Russian president began work to organize a meeting between Trump and Putin in upcoming days, potentially next week. Clearly breaking news for this moment, but me being skeptical, by the way, I think this meeting will not take place because I expect some, unprecedented scale of escalation from the West against Russia in upcoming hours and the days, especially after tomorrow when Trump's ultimatum to Russia will expire. I said earlier that I hope I'm wrong being this skeptical, but better to be ready, right, than cut off guard. That's how it is. Okay, dear friends, let me now engage there in the community chatter. I will scroll through comments, and if I see question or the comment directed to me, of course I will highlight that. I guess there was no super chat on Rumble or any donations through PayPal or Boosted during the stream, so I have nothing to highlight. Let me ask her anyways. Annie. Oh, there was nothing, right? So, okay, nothing to highlight. So I will scroll now, dear friends. This week gonna be very bad in terms of support of this project. I can tell that already. Okay, Nidish Kumar is commenting Levan. He can be as much as he can. He is not getting any entry into Indian agriculture and dairy, and GMO food will not be allowed. Canada is rejecting U.S. Farm products. Well, U.S. I don't know on how good knowledge of Trump is about U.S.'s dependence on other countries, including on India. But when you listen to his talks, I mean, one might assume that U.S. is not importing nothing or not dependent on nothing when it comes to either India or Canada or other countries, and this is not the case. And I'm telling you, Moody's already is reporting that U.S. is on the brink of recession, and these tariff wars that Trump is engaged in definitely is not helping, right? Definitely is not helping. I don't know how far Washington is willing to go in this fight. I guess they want their businesses, that Western businesses, first of all, that have productions in India to relocate their facilities into US, right? And maybe this will work. I don't know. Maybe this will work. But on other hand, US consumer market gonna suffer big time, and US consumers, right, that are buying goods from all over the world, by the way, including India. And I will reiterate that I will repeat that India, US is a main trade partner for India, and over $100 billion of goods is being exported to US year-on-year terms, about 150 billion worth goods, which is quite a lot, isn't it? And now US consumers would either had to pay much more for very same goods that they were buying earlier, or they just have to refuse to buy it, and they're going to suffer anyways, right? India will find market, I have no doubts about it. By the way, after all, India is 1.4 billion people. So there is a tremendous domestic market in India, right? And the government of India definitely can come up with the measures to support domestic consumption, to increase even domestic consumptions, right? So therefore, I'm quite sure India will manage to deal with this situation. BRICS member states should stand with India for sure, 100%, and that's exactly how it's going to be, right? And eventually, US will lose. US will lose, and why nobody is stopping this administration in Washington from these crazy moves? I just don't know, man. I don't get it. They are harming their own economy, their own country, man. What the hell is going on there? What? Oh, there was just now, dear friends, there was donation on the PayPal. Let me highlight this. $33 donation from Michelle. Thank you very much, Michelle, for your support. There is no radio broadcaster. Show story. There is more comment. No, that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Michelle, for your donation and support and attention. I appreciate it. Thank you. And so let's continue, dear friends. As always, I'm repeating every day, isn't it, that capital letters will help to spot the question or the comment. Sometimes members of our community are upset that I did not highlight the question or the comment. But if I did not see, dear friends, what can I do about it? Isn't it? You know what? I want to show you screen that I am watching right now. I'm looking at. Let me try to do it. So you will have a better understanding how this works, right? So let me share screen. Oh, I cannot. Oh, I can. Seems like. Okay. So now, dear friends, you probably have seen, you are seeing on your screen exactly what I'm seeing, right? Right now. So let's add.
Better understand.
Okay, for a few seconds, by the way, because it does not really looks greater this way. So that's what I see, dear friends. There is a screen here where all the news can be seen when I'm sharing the information about this report and that's the report. And this is on the right side. That's the chat, by the way. I'm scrolling like that. And when I spot, let me spot question right now. When I spot question, capital Qs or capital letters, I stop. Right? I'm scrolling now and I have not seen any. Maybe I missed one already, but I just want to go through as many comments as possible, isn't it? So that's how it's done, dear friends. This is a StreamYard studio, right? So I look at this. I spot straight away comment from Nidish Kumar because he's using capital letters. So okay, let me remove this now. So and let's continue. That's how it's done, dear friends. I did share this screen now so that members of our community who are upset time to time that I missed the question, they would know that when you are scrolling fast comments, you might miss actually a question, and capital letters are helping to spot it. That's all. And there's Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, India just blocked her P8I or P81 aircraft purchaser. I think Tata will cancel purchase of 200 Boeing planes as well. Wow. Seriously? That's a big, man. That's the big deal. I didn't know. P81, it's a Poseidon plane for Navy. Maybe I might be wrong on that, but 200 Boeing planes, if are in the question, then of course that's the big hit. By the way, that's the big hit, and it might actually work. It might actually work because you remember when U.S. new administration start messing around China actually did the same. They blocked purchase of some 300 or 500 planes from Boeing as one of the retaliatory steps. Among others, and soon after, Washington actually started backtracking on its tariffs and hostility. So if India will stand strong, then I guess at one point Washington will have no option but to de-escalate, because it does makes no sense really. I mean, even neither for U.S. Economy, for U.S. citizens, neither for anybody, right? To see this hostility between U.S. and India, it's negative. It will have negative impact on everybody. It's just wrong. So this is big, of course. India announces that these 200 Boeing planes, this purchase is in question. I think alongside some other countermeasures, I think that will work quite well, and maybe U.S. administration will wake up eventually. India should be treated as an ally, by the way, by the West, right? I just don't get it, man. India should be treated as an ally. Western world should seek better and better ties with India. And instead of that, what we are seeing is a hostility from US, from Canada, from EU, from UK. What the hell, man? I don't know. I spotted there. You see, capital letters do the job. Peter Frowen is commenting, no way NASA is going back to moon. All the smart NASA engineers have retired, dead or moved out to the US, moved out from US. Not going to happen. Well, Peter is very skeptical, and for a reason. After all, since the 70s, basically, US was not really focused on moon explorations, right? And many people were asking questions. I mean, why you stopped these flights, right? But they did, and now, I'm not sure that NASA is actually ready to orchestrate a flight to the moon, even in next 5 years, let's say. 10 years, in 10 years' time, I don't know, maybe, but it's not going to be easy for sure. It's not going to be easy for sure. And because of their policies, hostile policies of the US towards the other countries, by the way, US economy going to struggle to attract their best brains from all over the world. I mean, that was a main reason of the economical, technological success of the US, isn't it, in past decades? That US was attracting through visas and through payments and through other things as many best brains from all over the world as they potentially could, right? And those engineers, by the way, were big time behind all their tremendous successes that US companies had in past decades. And now, if this flow is nearing to its end, flow of best brains to the US, then of course US will struggle, at least for some time, until US domestic educational system will increase its work quality, right? Because me personally, I'm quite skeptical of US school education system. I'm quite skeptical of US university educational system, and I have quite reasons. I don't want to go in details, but I think if there was Olympics, by the way, let's say from either school kids or the university students, I think US representatives will lose big time to representatives of Russia, for example, or India, for example, by the way. I mean, India has a great brains, historically speaking, right? Or to China, by the way, or to even Europe. I think educational system in Europe is also much better than it is in US. Yet again, personal opinion, which is based on information that is available on open sources, right? Even many US citizens are very critical of US educational systems. So it will take probably long time before US will be in a position to have truly good schools that are producing in mass brightest engineers and scientists. Although obviously there are several I want to also add that obviously I'm not saying that there is no good educational institutions in the US. Some might be, but it's not enough. That's all, right? Nidish Kumar is also commenting, Levan, I think Spain can go for KF-21 of Korea, or can join Japan for sixth generation fighter plane with their own engines. What is your take on it? Well, reason why Spain is refusing to buy now or questioning this deal with the F-35s is that they want to spend their money on inside Europe, on European military industrial complex. So therefore, I don't think they will consider buying weapons either from Korea or the Japan, but they can join. Actually, there is a sixth generation fighter jet concepts that been worked on by European companies, right? In which several countries are experiencing with the cooperation, and probably Spain is part of it. Or will join. But I think it is highly unlikely that, if not being pressured by Washington to buy these F-35s, then most likely Spain will choose one of their European planes. And at this point, I think it's no longer worth to invest in Typhoons, right? Eurofighters are too old. I think either Rafale or Saab, or if they want necessarily stealth plane, fifth gen plane, then in that case they have to wait until Europeans will come up with their own fifth or sixth gen fighter jet. Until then, they will continue to use F-18s. But I don't think they're gonna buy Korean planes or join Japan in their endeavor to build sixth gen plane. Don Zugar is asking, many people believe that U.S. moon landing was fake. What's your opinion and their opinion of the bulk of the Russian population on this matter? Well, I cannot tell you what majority of Russian society thinks about it. I don't have up front of me any study on that. Although I'm quite sure sometime in the past there was such studies, and I can research on that matter if you will ask this question again sometime in the future. So I will have better knowledge about public opinion. But my personal opinion is that yes, U.S. astronauts landed on the moon. Most likely, I mean, of course, I cannot know for sure. I was not there. But I think, yes, most likely U.S. astronauts landed on the moon. Apollo missions were success in many ways, especially in terms of learning more and more about space flights, right, and adapting new technologies. And one of the reasons why I think this program was successful, Apollo missions, is that well, why would Moscow didn't debunk this claim of the Washington or the NASA that they landed successfully quite a few times on the moon? It was a Cold War era, right? On one side, US and its allies, on the other side, Soviet Union with its allies, and there was a space competition between the two. And why would Moscow didn't debunk this claim if US astronauts didn't actually land on the moon? I mean, that's a quite legit question, isn't it? And that's about it. Because Moscow never said Roscosmos or now or the Soviet scientists never said that U.S. never landed on the moon. Therefore, I think they did land it, and this Apollo mission was a success. I know all sorts of theories, by the way. I mean, I have seen videos on that and stuff, as many of members of our community. But nevertheless, I think because Moscow never debunked this claim of NASA or the Washington, I think they landed on the moon, by the way. I mean, they did. Most likely, yet again, most likely. I was not there, but I believe they did. I have every reason to believe that they did. Otherwise, I mean, I cannot see any reason why would Moscow sit quiet and say nothing to debunk this claim. You know, I don't know. Yet again, I mean, you may disagree with me, dear friends. So you might say, well, maybe there was some agreement between Soviet and U.S. astroscientists. I don't know. I just don't know. Because it was not debunked by Moscow, I think landings did take place. Donzugar is commenting, can't you scroll slower so you can see? Maybe you need a new mouse. No, it's not about mouse, Don. It's about timing, right? This stream is already 1.5 hours. And as I'm saying, we have a big community chat on Sundays, right? So Sunday is different. On Sundays, we have a fundraising and community chat. And then I will scroll slowly to find the question. And to be engaged in a conversation, hours even if necessary. But on the work days, we have a short community chat, right? 15, 20, 30 minutes around, because I have to continue work, right? I have to make updates on. Now I have updated you, for example, on a statement of Ushakov that there is a dialogue now between U.S. And Russia to orchestrate this meeting between Trump and Putin that might take place next week, even though I don't believe in that, but that's what Ushakov says, right? I did update you on that, but I have not update my Telegram and Twitter X page on that, right? And I have to do it too, because there are members of communities who are subscribed on the Telegram or the Twitter or Twitter X and are not subscribed on my YouTube or Rumble. So I have to work there, and then I have to begin preparing my next update. So, and by the way, I'm a human being, right? I have to do something at home too. Right now, we are moving from this place. We found a new flat for my mom, which is going to be more comfortable, and we are in the process of moving. So there is a lot to do. By the way, there is boxes all over the place here. So there's a lot to do, dear friends. I don't really have that much free time, right? So that's why I'm scrolling fast, Don Zugar. On work days, we have on weekdays we have a short community chat. On Sundays we have fundraising and a big community chat. That's how it is. I see question from Ramplens. Sorry if I'm butchering your nickname, dear friend. Levan, does Russia have bunkers for all its population around the country in case of nuclear war? No. There is a lot of bunkers, by the way, even since Soviet Union, even, right? Many of them, but I don't think any country has enough bunkers to hide the whole population, especially big countries, by the way. There is a lot of bunkers, obviously. There is a lot of hiding places, but in case of nuclear war, let's hope it will never happen, by the way, nuclear exchange. But in case of nuclear exchange, I don't really think bunkers gonna help much. Because at one point you have to come out, isn't it? And you're gonna come out to what? To radioactive desert? How are you gonna survive, though? So that's why scientists are saying that nuclear exchange between U.S. and Russia is a end of everything, and people that will manage to survive initial nuclear strikes and the aftermath, including a nuclear winter, might actually be in such a devastating situation, then they would prefer to die during the initial blast. Post-apocalyptic world, by the way, is going to be hell on earth, right? Let's hope it will never happen. Let's hope it will never happen. But nevertheless, so I don't think there is that many bunkers to keep 145, 48 million people in. There is enough shelters, by the way. Every building in the cities, for example, had their underground facilities, right, that can be used as to hide. There are specialized bunkers, obviously, in every city. And the renovations were done, by the way, in these bunkers, and many of them are actually locked and ready to receive people if necessary. In cities where metro is operating, metro obviously can serve as a massive, huge underground facility, bunker. But to hide, to provide everybody, all 145, 48 million people with their specialized bunkers, no, I don't think it's even feasible. And I don't think any country in this world, any big country in this world, has actually anti-nuclear, let's say, bunkers to keep all safe all the population. It's just probably would not be possible to do, man. There are a lot of shelters, yes, for sure. Also, a question from White Falcon. Do you think the US would be able to destroy the Russian mass mobile ICBM truck from submarines before they are able to deploy? It all depends on intelligence, isn't it? It all depends on intelligence. I don't think US will use ICBM to strike Russian Russian mobile systems, nuclear systems, nuclear missiles, some other means. Not necessarily submarines, although submarines can be used also. But if you take a look at the map, dear friends, from where US have to launch, for example, Tomahawk to strike Russian mobile ICBM somewhere in the forest area of the Siberia, it's such a distances that Tomahawk cannot be used, and US don't really has any other long-range means, with the exception of ICBMs, and to use nuclear missiles or the warheads to target mobile ICBMs, that's quite a waste, really. But nevertheless, it will all be dependent on intelligence. If US can track Russian mobile ICBMs, so they will definitely try to target it any way possible, if they can, right? If it comes to full-scale nuclear exchange, because that's what militaries are tasked for, right? And Russian militaries will do the same. They will try to target all nuclear assets of the US, no matter where they are, on the land, in air, or under the sea. Ohio-class submarines, for example. So technically speaking, it's a possibility, but it all depends on intelligence, obviously. And dear friends, if I may, I will end this live stream now. My apologies if I miss your question, dear friends, somehow. It happens yet again. I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best to be actively engaged in the chat after news segment. And I will end this stream with this question from Nidish Kumar. Levan, don't you think it is difficult to build something on the moon than on Mars because of less gravity? Lift off can be easy from moon through. Levan, don't you think it is difficult to build something on the moon than on Mars because of the less gravity? Lift off can be easy from a moon through. Oh, if you mean that it is easier to use moon, for example, as a starting point for to reach Mars, you are on point. Absolutely, of course, and probably that's exactly how things gonna be done. You don't want to launch spacecraft from Earth towards the Mars, because you will waste a tremendous volume. You would not be even to do this, probably, or maybe you would be able to do this, but it will take tremendous time. But if you launch a spacecraft into orbit, let's say, or to moon, refuel either on orbit or on the moon, and then launch from there towards the Mars, well, that will be more, that will cost less, I think, and that will be, a better way to go, for sure. So you are definitely on point. Of course, it will be much easier to launch from a moon, for example, towards the Mars, because of the lesser gravity, right? Main point is to have to build the stations on the moon, so that you'll be able to produce fuel, and there is a potential on the moon to produce fuel for the rockets, right, for the spacecraft. So it's definitely feasible, based on my knowledge, what I read about space explorations and space travel. But yet again, it will take years and potentially decades, isn't it, before we'll master, humanity will master all the technologies to be able to make these flights to the moon and to the Mars on a regular basis, let's say. And dear friends, let me end this new segment on that. Thank you very much for your attention and support, for your questions, for your comments. If you can, dear friends, and if you like this video, this live stream, please click that like button under the video. It might help to reach wide audience. And if you can, please leave some commentary in the comment section too. And before I go, let me thank Banzo Beans, our moderator on Rumble. Thanks, Banzo, for being here, for being helpful. Thank you all, dear friends. Bye for now, and take care.